used to do them all in Toronto.
Yeah.
In Toronto for a long time, and then I moved to Durham and I started doing one here.
Nice. There we go. Here's the big ginger.
Hey, there he is.
Staring.
Nice and close. Nice and close.
Hey, we can see you.
Hold on. Do you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we good? Oh, okay.
Yeah. You can move a bit away from the screen if you want. Welcome, people, coast to coast. You know what time it is. It is Bush Banter, and we got the Bushman here bringing you the hottest takes. First episode of 2024. It's going to be a huge season this year. I'm, of course, and we do have a special guest who we'll get to in one moment. I'm, of course, G Hill. I'm in the house. What's going on? I'll pass it over to my other Bushman who's just doing some pennant work there, doing some interior decorating.
Sorry.
Ray, are you in the house?
I am here, gentlemen. I'm really excited for this episode, and Happy New Year's, everyone.
Let's go. And then we'll finally pass it over to L. He's got the ring light. I don't know if people know. He's looking very bright, showing those blemishes. He's out here. L, are you in the house?
I'm not only in the house, but this is the best I've looked on Zoom in my entire life. Let's go.
Let's go, of course. And then finally, we have a very special guest for you people, the pride of East York, an ex-Blue Jay, Philly, and Houston Astro, known most notably for being the only Canadian to have won the World Series with your Toronto Blue Jays, our coach, the legend, Mr. Rob Butler. Are you in the house?
I'm in the house, but I'm drinking tea tonight, boys.
It's all right. We make an exception.
And I gotta have my initial on here so I know it's my cup. You know, the wife isn't even allowed to touch this cup. Mine only.
There you go.
You don't want your brother
we got
coming
our
over and
eyes on
grabbing
this year, Coach, the Domenico Cup. So hopefully we'll all be drinking beer out of that cup at the end of this season. But
we'll make an Earl Grey for Rob, though. We'll make it.
I
Just a splash of
man.
whiskey. Just a splash of whiskey.
Oh yeah. Well, those are the old days.
Those are the old days.
The younger days when I could take it.
Well, speaking of the old days, Coach, you know, thanks again for coming on. We're super jacked up about the season coming up. I think first and foremost, we obviously just love to learn a little bit about yourself and obviously your come up in baseball. So, you know, tell the world. I know my buddy Ray here lives near Stan Wadlow Park, which is close to your heart. But why don't you tell us just a little bit about how kind of you got into the game? We obviously know you have a brother, Rich, both of you extremely successful baseball players. Tell us a little bit about how kind of the baseball, you know, became part of your life.
Well, you know what? I was pretty lucky where I grew up. You know, I grew up at Maine and Danforth with a bunch of crazy kids in the neighborhood. And we just loved playing sports all the time, right? So we're always playing Burby, playing ball hockey. We used to play ball hockey with a sheet with a cube of ice that we would find on the ground. No matter what we were doing, we didn't have a puck or a tennis ball, but if we found a chunk of ice, we would play with that thing at Coleman Park, where I grew up. So no matter what, we're always thinking sports. You know, my mom and dad, they weren't really athletes in any way. They never played any organized sports. I mean, later on, my dad ran the Toronto Marathon a bunch of times, and my mom would do her 10K a day. But you know, my dad came from Newfoundland when he was 17 years old. My mom was, well, she's actually an Indigenous. She's a Mohawk from Kanawaki in Quebec. But wow. She grew up in Detroit and then came to Toronto and somehow met my big nose dad, the Newfie from Butlerville, Newfoundland, and they hooked up. And you know, they made a couple kids. And you know what? I was lucky, man. I was actually so lucky. I was lucky the way my parents raised me and my brother. You know, they were hardworking people. They made us work our asses off for everything that we ever got. You know, we grew up in Ontario housing, and you know, so I mean, neither here nor there, but it just meant that we were always outside. You know, there's obviously no video games back then. God didn't have phones. We had a phone on the wall. You had to talk with the wire on the wall back when I was a kid. So that wasn't any fun. So we were always outside playing sports. And you know, one of my buddies that I grew up with, I was probably 9 or 10 years old, and we were playing Burby every day. And he asked me if I wanted to come join his house league team in East York. And the first year I didn't do it. When I was 10 years old, I did not do it. I was too afraid. It was actually funny. I was like, no, I'm going to play organized baseball. I know I'm pretty happy right here with the Burby wall and just you and me. And his name was Marcelo Kim. He was a schoolmate of mine. So my brother was only 7 years old at the time, but he was also playing with us. And he's like, man, you got to go do it. So anyways, the next year he asked me again. And sure enough, I walked over to Stan Wadlow and signed up for East York House League when I was 11 years old, and just fell in love with baseball, man. I lived and breathed the Blue Jays, the Montreal Expos, Kansas City Royals when George Brett was there, Paul Molitor with the Milwaukee Brewers, and Robin Yount and Ben Ogilvy and all these guys. I loved looking at box scores. I used to keep score on the radio. I'd have my own little score book, and I keep score of the Blue Jay games when I was like 11 and 12.
Garrett still does that now at the Leafs games.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
Beers, it's hard to keep track of everything.
But there is something to that. There's something more fun about keeping track of the games. I don't know what it was. It's such a weird thing.
It's,
none of
it's
my
a
buddies
lost
know.
art too. Really kind of following along with the box score.
Yeah, I was so intrigued by baseball for some reason. It was just like in our blood, even though we're we're not American, which is funny, being Canadian, loving it so much. But so I just played my baseball in East York as a house leaguer, and not thinking anything about major leagues or anything like that. I just love playing. But when I was 12 years old, I tried out for the All-Star team for the first time, and I got cut. Didn't make the 12-year-old All-Star team in East York, which motivated me. It actually, it wasn't any kind of a downer. And getting cut back then was like, it wasn't this sort of end of life kind of thing for you. You kind of were like, what? I got cut. Oh, I'm going to make sure I don't get cut next year. You know what I mean? Kind of like in those Rocky moments, you're out there training. 12 years old. My dad was like, get me to do push-ups. You're weak. But
You're weak by.
Who gets cut from the house league team?
Oh, dude, you gotta make the people of Butlerville proud. That's what.
Well, that would end up happening later on. They actually got some mentions in the World Series, which was drove Butlerville crazy. They went actually nuts for that. But yeah, so I just played baseball in East York. Played there till about 1988, 89. 86, they wanted to make me into this is how small my battle. They wanted me to be a pitcher only. So in 1986, my coach, I'm 16, said, you know what, you're not a very good hitter. He bring me to a Blue Jay game and tell me this too. And his name was Harry McElhoney, good guy, right, honest down to his soul. And he said, Rob, you're not a very good hitter, but you're a left-handed pitcher. I want you to be a pitcher only. And I was like, are you shitting me? Like, what? Pitcher only? I'm not going to play center field anymore? Well, you're not doing too good. So I came home, and that actually made me a little distraught. So I came home, and my dad immediately, I was at the gym the next day. You are not, he didn't know what a PO was. He's like, what the hell is that? Anyways, I said, it's a pitcher only. So I'm not coming to watch you pitch one game, and that's it. So anyways, he got me actually hooked up in the gym, and it changed my whole life. That's what kind of set me and Rich onto a different trajectory. And he taught us how to train and how to weight lift properly. He made our legs really strong. And, so I went from a PO in 1986, and in 1988, I was the starting center fielder on the Olympic team.
Wow.
So, junior national team, the Olympic team, I was a starting center fielder. And I remember telling, there was Matt Stairs and all these guys would go into the big leagues. Greg O'Halloran was a good friend of mine, Peter Hoy. And they were like, where'd you come from? I said, but I was in PO 2 years ago. And it was just
Wow.
I don't know, it was just weird. Like this, getting some training and some proper training really helped me and my brother. Rich was on the national team when he was 16, playing pro when he was 17.
Wow.
Lives just really changed. My dad kind of got into it and put us on the straight and narrow and said, "This is what you got to do, man."
Right.
Yeah.
So just running my math, you were born in 1970, correct?
Yeah.
So in 1981, you're playing house league. You're getting cut from a house league or from a rep
all-star team,
from an all-star team at 12U, and you've only been playing the game for a year and a half. And fast forward 8 years later, and you're playing in the Olympics on Team Canada.
6 years later.
6 years later.
Yeah, it happened kind of fast.
Wow.
I don't know. It was like a late blooming kind of thing. Because a lot of guys would always say to me, because they just had that where they put me on at the park. They put my name up at the park, my plaque thing there. And a lot of guys always remind me, you weren't very good when you were 14 and 15. We have no Rob Butler stories of winning at the championship. And I was like, I know. I was horse shit. I didn't do anything. I was just I was the guy on the bench so much. It was unreal.
Wow.
Well, it just goes to show you that putting in a good dedicated base, like you're saying, you and your brother completely transformed the way that you can maximize your abilities. Being train hard, we get stronger.
Yeah.
It just adds to your ability to, really become the kind of player that you were.
Yeah, no, you know what? And well, my dad made me work with him at a summer job. So my dad worked in a factory called Welder Supply. He used to fill the oxygen tanks and nitrogen tanks for hospitals and for guys who do welding and that. And he said, the only way you're going to get mentally tough is you come work with me every day. So that was my summer job from June to September, 7 a.m. till 5 p.m., slugging it out in this 200-degree freaking plant, right? And
Your dad just riding your ass the whole time.
and my dad riding my ass. This other guy, Aldo, who worked there, who I just loved. He's an old man. He's about to retire. And he would just, I could do, first of all, nothing right. I had to sweep the floors, paint the tanks, load the trucks, unload the trucks, no lunch break, and just on. But it taught me so much, man. It did. I hated my dad, and I hated Aldo. But you know, I was like, these two pricks are like riding my ass. But I didn't realize, you know, that they were teaching me a real lesson, man. And it really did help. Like I was a totally different person. It really did help me.
Yeah, well, because after that, like,
to a man real quick.
After that, if Cito Gas is riding your ass, you're like,
oh,
Aldo?
Cito Gas.
Well,
yeah, it's not fun when that guy comes down the bench and asks you why you're doing this wrong and why you're doing that wrong. It's like, oh God, here we go.
Oh wow, that's a great segue, Al. So you know, like you just said, Rob, like it was an insanely fast ascent, and you know, you signed as an amateur free agent in 1990, as if my stats are correct here, with the Blue Jays, and I think you made your debut with the Jays in June of '93. So. Can you tell us just a little bit about that experience, right? You played on Team Canada in the Olympics. You know, you're obviously really hitting your stride. How did the Jays end up getting in touch with you? And maybe tell us just a little bit about that journey, you know, eventually signing with the pros, and then sort of where that contract led you before you inevitably broke into the majors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the Blue Jays were after me from the time I was on the Olympic team, because all the coaches were scouts for the Blue Jays. Jim Ridley, Bernie Beckman, Johnny Upham, all those guys were working for the Jays as scouts, and they were trying to get us all to sign. And there was no draft back then, so you had to sign as a free agent.
Were they trying to get more Canadian players back then, sort of the early 90s, late 80s? Would they?
What's that?
Were the Jays in particular trying to scout more sort of Canadian grassroots players coming up?
Oh yeah, everybody that was Canadian kind of came up with the Expos or the Blue Jays. That's kind of it was easy for them, right? They had a couple scouts around the country. No other teams had scouts here. It was really difficult for any other team they didn't trust that Canadians were good enough. So there was this kind of like Canadian invasion that happened right around my time, because I think 6 or 7 guys from that '88 Olympic team made it to the big leagues.
Yeah, you mentioned Matt.
You know, Larry Walker was before us, Terry Poole was before us, some other guys were before us, but it wasn't like a big group of guys until '87, '88 when it all kind of started to change. And you know, then my brother kind of came through with his group, but you know, only a few guys actually got to pro ball with his age group. But my age group definitely changed the landscape for Canadian baseball, because they brought the draft in later. More guys, the American team started to realize the Canadians were actually pretty damn good at playing baseball. so they brought the draft up, started drafting Canadians. So that was kind of like, we kind of paved, I would say we kind of paved the road for it all kind of happening, because there was so many guys who played AA, AAA in the major leagues on that '88 Olympic team that for sure changed their view on, you know, we got to look at these Canadian guys a little more closely.
Well, Rob, I believe that's why you got that sick plaque in the park. Rob, you're paving the way for the boys.
It took 30 years to get it up there. I don't know. It's there, so I'm happy.
Now you're complaining about it.
Yeah, no kidding. But you know what? Like, I was also very fortunate that I played in East York. Yeah. Because in East York, there was, I mean, our house league in East York was like not house league now. It was tough, man. Like all the best players, and you know what I mean? Like every team was like an all-star team. It was all the studs played together. Like my high school team had 3 or 4 guys that made it to the junior national team. Like it was tough sledding. There was only like 8 or 9 high school teams back then. So all the good players were on each team, you know? So where I grew up in East York, you know, a guy named Alan Butler, not a relation, good friend, he signed pro with the Jays first in 1985. And he was kind of like our inspiration to that there's a chance, you know what I mean? I was 15 years old, and I remember watching, he played in St. Catharines. I remember going and watching a few games, and I was just like, man, I want to do this. So that was another kind of inspiration. I was lucky where I grew up. If I played at East Toronto by Ted Reeve, just none of this would have happened. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I played any other park, it wouldn't have happened. So I was really lucky. So anyways, I ended up signing in 1990. Me and my brother signed the same day, same contract. We actually did it as kind of a birthday present for my dad.
What about Aldo?
The Blue Jays were trying to sign me for a couple of years. It's actually a funny, interesting story. So they were trying to sign me for a couple of years, and I kept saying no. I wanted to play with Team Canada. I wasn't really. It's funny. I wanted to be a pro my whole childhood, and when I got a chance, I said no initially.
Right.
So for a couple of years, they were trying to sign me. I went to a couple of showcase camps. Kept saying no. And then me and my brother went to a showcase camp at the same time. So I didn't even turn 20. I was 19. He was only 16, and they were more interested in Rich than me, because Rich was, 6'1", chiseled, runs a 6'4", throws 95 miles an hour from the outfield, hitting home runs like it's nothing, junior national team. So when the last time that they called, which actually woke me up to like, my door is finally closing here. Bob Prentice, the scout that was signing us, and Ron Ronsetti, both are passed away now, but great guys, good baseball guys. My dad said, Rob and Rich want to sign. They'll sign. And they said, we will only sign Rob and Rich if it is Rob and Rich. If Rich is too young to do it, we don't want Rob. It's either going to be the brothers together or just Rich. That's it.
Wow.
And my dad was like,
don't give your younger brother that much power.
Yeah.
I'd be all over
I
it.
was like, wow, they really only want Rich, but they'll take you as a bonus. And I was like, are you kidding me? So anyways, that actually shook me up, man. It shook me up, and I was like, let's do it. I want to be a pro. You know what I mean? And it actually made me feel better that Rich was coming with me. It was kind of like that thoroughbred that needs that little goat buddy that keeps him calm. You know what I mean? Helps him through. You know what I mean? He really eased my stress and anxiety about going. So us going together really helped me, and I thrived. And you know what I mean? I had a great year. My first year in St. Catharines, I won the batting title, MVP of the league, and it kind of got my trajectory going to the faster to the big leagues.
I have two younger brothers, and I can tell you, I definitely would have a fire lit under my ass if one of my younger brothers was the preferred athlete. I'd be like, no.
I mean, dude,
I'm putting in work.
Rob, I also have two younger brothers, and all artists, and my one younger brother works for the government. We just want to kick his ass every day because he's the only one with a regular job. So,
well, I was able to do that till Rich turned about 15. And then I was looking up at him going, I'm not kicking your ass anymore.
Right. Well, Elliot's probably got about 3 inches and 45 pounds on me, but it's a mind game. You got to win that psychological battle.
One day I'm coming for that crown, and I will wear it proudly atop my head.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, like you said, you tore up St. Catharines, but you had a hell of a year in Dunedin before you got called up in '93. I was just looking at your stats. So you batted .358 in '92 with an .852 OPS. You had 13 doubles, 7 triples. Your brother Rich probably had a little bit more power in terms of the home runs, but you must have had a massive year. And like you said, I think you said when you were 15, you sort of had your eyes on the majors. I would have had to think that year at Dunedin must have given you a lot of confidence for potentially having a shot to really make it to the show.
Yeah, 92 was amazing, man. I played with Carlos Delgado, Sean Green, Timmy Hires, Steve Carsey, Howard Battle. I mean, it's a team full of future big leaguers, right? And a couple of guys that should be in the Hall of Fame right now. Like Delgado should be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I don't understand that one. That one makes no sense.
Yeah, that makes zero sense. That one's almost should be like an inquiry posted and like, what the hell's going on here? What are we missing?
Yeah, best first base in the game for 10 years. No, that's just nothing.
Yeah, I know. It's insane. I don't get it. It's because he played for Toronto. It's brutal. So it all almost didn't happen because in 91 I tore my rotator cuff in instructional league, and I had to have surgery November the 1st, and the doctor told me, you're not gonna be ready for spring training. You won't be ready for February. And I was like, but I didn't think anything of it. You know what I mean? I just went home and I just trained my butt off, did everything I could. Luckily I was young, luckily I was healthy, luckily I didn't, you know what I mean? I was always in shape. I was able to get back for spring training. So it almost didn't happen. But it did slow me down. Like my spring training was really slow. I had a bad spring training. I almost didn't make the Dunedin team. I almost got sent to Myrtle Beach. But Dennis Holmberg was like, no way, you're going to play here. We'll figure it out. We'll give you time to get it going. Because in April, I was batting like 150. My batting average was so low in April.
50 under the Mendoza?
It was
That's
brutal.
fine.
And I still remember Hector Torres saying, man, like you know, you had a great year last year. You're actually swinging the bat well, but you're not hitting. Anyways, it's funny. I had really long hair, which I never usually have. I went and I said, you know, I'm gonna get my hair cut. I'm gonna try something different. I'm gonna get my hair cut and see if that changes shit. First day back after my haircut, 3 for 5. Second day, 3 for 5. Third day, 3 for 5.
There you go. And then you picked your head afterwards. You're like, no, I'm going right down to the wood.
Sean Green, I still remember Sean Green. We're like, Rob, we're all going to get our haircut.
They were trying so hard, Rob, to tell you that it was 92 and you had to let the mullet go. But
I had to let my mullet go. I had a terrible Canadian Danforth mullet my whole life. I had an ugly mullet, man.
Look, Rob, the
Hey, great
80s have
year,
ended.
great down.
Time.
It was pretty bad. So, but you know what? Playing with Delgado and having those guys behind me, once I kind of got going, I mean, it was just easy. It was easy pickings, man. The pitchers didn't want to pitch to me as much as I had to worry about pitching to those guys. So I got lots of fastballs. I got on base. I did my job. You know what I mean? I did everything I could for those guys to get RBIs, and you know, I ended up winning the batting title that year. But I only played in 90 games. I broke my foot. So Dennis Holmberg, the manager, comes and said, "You're going to be one of the first guys to get 200 hits in the Florida State League." And I was like, I wasn't thinking, because I had 140 hits in 90 games.
Yeah,
Like, you're going to get 200 hits, man.
It's like 122 games, isn't it?
It's 100. So you play 140. You play 142 games in the season. Yeah, 140. Yeah. So we had like 50 games to basically get 50 hits, and I was on a good pace. I break my foot the next day. Next day. Season ends. I fractured my foot. I was in a cast for 3 months. It wasn't like a break where I could come back in 2 weeks. 3 months, done. I'm done. The season ends. But you know what? I still won the batting title. I got to play with great guys. I had a great coach. Dennis Holmberg was the best, most influential guy. And he told me, you're going to be in AAA next year. I was like, there's no way. I thought I'd go like AA. Anyways, 93, I go to spring training and I make the AAA team. So I skipped AA, went from A ball to AAA. I played, I got called up in June, but I only played, I think, about 30 games. I hurt my hamstring pretty bad. I missed 3 weeks of playing with my hamstring. So, but I was batting 300 in AAA, and I got called to the big league. So I spent half a year in St. Catharines, 90 games in Dunedin, about 35 games in AAA, and I was in big leagues.
Wow, that's insane. That's
too fast.
Rocket up though. That's a rocket
too fast. Way too fast for where I came from and the little experience that I had. I needed more time. Wow. I definitely feel like I needed more time. The major leagues is there is no league higher than the major leagues, and it's tough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is not like the minor leagues at all. The expectation is to win. It's not development. You know what I mean? Coaches are unforgiving. You know what I mean? You're playing for playing good. You're done if you're not. Whereas in the minor leagues, they let you develop. You know what I mean? You deal with failure and all that.
Yeah.
You're dealing with the pitchers that have that still 80s mentality where it's the high inside fastball.
Oh yeah, no, I was throwing that all the time. I was always throwing that because I was a little guy. I always got throwing that. That was a no brainer, man. They wouldn't throw at Delgado. They throw at me. But yeah, and plus playing in Toronto. You know what I mean? Growing up in Toronto, you know, I went from having nobody in the minor leagues watching me play. My family didn't even see me play very many games at all. To like 80 of my friends, all of my family wanting tickets to every game. And I couldn't even think. You know what I mean? I was like, first of all, I was scared shitless because I'm playing for the Toronto Blue Jays. You know, I'm in like locker room with, you know, Robbie Alomar and Joe Carter and these guys I just watched win the World Series the year before on TV.
Yeah.
No, I'm playing with them.
That's crazy. Yeah, literally.
Well, Elliot's talking about, you know, grizzled vets and everything. And I was just looking at the 93 team and specifically looking at it by age. And the oldest member of that team, I just want to get your thoughts on when you walked in the locker room and you just saw a grizzled Jack Morris sitting in the corner, just chewing leather out of his mouth. What were your thoughts on some of these epic players? Another player who was up there in age that you got to play with was Ricky Henderson too. So what did and then on the younger side of it, like you said, it was you, Sean Green, Carlos Delgado, 3 youngest guys on the team. And then a mix of some of these like these vets. Like, What were your thoughts just sort of walking to that locker room? And do you have any like amazing stories of Jack Morris or even one of our favorite, Juan Guzman, with one of the best, talk about hairstyle, one of the best in the early 90s.
Don't get too close, man. You get greasy.
Yeah.
Father Guzman. When I got called up to the big leagues, first of all, it was a total surprise. I still didn't think I was going to get called up. And then when I did walk into the locker room for the first time, because we played in Detroit, my first game was in Detroit. It was in Tiger Stadium. And I was honestly, I was terrified. I was excited, but I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified because I didn't know. I mean, I was just playing with a group of guys who were 22, 21 years old. You know what I mean? Like we're just young guys.
Yeah.
And I was the first one called up from that group. Sean and Carlos got called up in September. So I was there. I was really there by myself, right? I was sent to the Wolves by myself and had to kind of deal with this whole thing of being from Toronto, being Canadian, and all the attention that brought. And it was a little bit tough on the guys. They didn't really always appreciate that. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of hype and, you know, put a lot of pressure on me to do things I really wasn't. It was out of my comfort zone. Remember, teams all changed. And I still remember one of the first things Jack Morris said to me, how are you going to feel when you're a garbage man in a couple of years? He didn't expect me to be very long at all.
I was going to ask you if that guy ever even said a word to you, man. That guy was
they were ripping me all the time. I was the only guy that wore my socks really high, right? I had the high socks, right? You've seen my picture, my World Series picture there. This is something the guys didn't do back. I don't know if you can see, but I had the high socks, right? The socks up to the knee, right? And those guys didn't do that.
I'm not gonna lie, the Bush would get after you for high socks.
Yeah,
you guys would be carrying me a new one. It's funny, actually. The reason why I wore high socks was because in my very first spring training, me and Rich went to spring training together. And it's the first time we ever used a wood bat. We grew up using only aluminum. It was only aluminum we grew up, so they put a wood bat in our hands for the first time. Doug Galt is throwing batting practice. I cannot hit my first 10 balls past the pitcher screen.
Oh.
He looks out and goes, "Is there a 5-year-old in your hitting?" Like I couldn't hit the ball past him throwing me batting practice 50 feet away. And so my first 3 or 4 days, it was just like that. I just could not get used to the wood bat that quickly. Right? I'd never done it before. So, anyways, me and Rich, we were roommates in our spring training, and we're like, "What are we gonna do, man? Because we are really shitting the bed. We're not playing well, and you know, we're thinking we're gonna get cut. Like we're not gonna make it through our first spring training. They didn't invest any money in us anyway. They gave us $5 grand. Like we weren't bonus. We were not a bonus of anything."
Were you guys back living at home, or were the two of you guys like kind of have your own apartment close to the dome?
No, we had to stay in the hotel.
Okay.
Hotel together. Yeah, they put all the minor leaguers stayed in the hotel together in Dunedin.
Nice.
Yeah, major leaguers had once you're established, you can get rooms, but they put you in a hotel.
You still have to bring the coffee to the hotel for the major leaguers, though, from your hotel in Dunedin.
What's that?
You still have to bring the coffee from your hotel to their hotel.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. No, they took care of everything. So me and Rich were together in a room one night, and we're like, "What are we gonna do, man? This isn't going good." So he says, "Why don't we do like we did in Burby, man? You're Babe Ruth, I'm Lou Gehrig. We're gonna wear our socks really high. We're gonna walk in there like clowns, but let's see what happens." And honest to God, it was like the light switched on. Rich started hitting balls over the center field fence. I started hitting ball line drives up the middle. Like, and I did not change. From that point, that was my superstition. I wore my high socks my whole career, really. And just from that one transit, that one night of saying, "You know what? Let's just change the way we're thinking, man."
That's amazing. And everybody already does know that the Butlers have incredibly defined calf muscles. So it was a long play.
Yeah. Is that how you got past Jack? He just flashed a little calf and he's like, you know what? Yeah, those are sick.
Yeah. Pat Borders, when I first saw Pat Borders, first of all, so I come walking in and Pat Borders pretended like he knew me. "Rob!" Oh my! First of all, he asked one of the guys, "What's this guy's name?"
God.
And he goes, "Rob, great to see you, man. Been a long time, right? Long days from spring. I didn't even go to spring training with him. He didn't know who I was."
Yeah.
Anyways, he's like putting his arm around me. Guys, look, Butler's here. Butler's up in the big leagues. Yeah. Anyways, he takes all my uniform and throws it in the garbage can and tells me that's where I got a dress for the game. So he stood there and just watched he went back to his log and just watched my reaction.
Yeah.
I took everything out of there, put it all on, That was my locker for the day. No problem. He came up to me
Wow.
afterwards and said, "You passed the first test,
You
man."
passed the test.
You passed Uncle Pat's border patrol.
Yeah.
test.
Legendary dude. Honestly, legendary guy. Him,
Yeah.
Aaron
Just
Dalton,
that-
my two best teammates.
Yeah, so like just out of like curiosity, like I'm curious about the Ricky Henderson thing because we've all heard stories about Ricky Henderson being just like such a wild personality. Like, what was it like being in that locker room with him?
Well, he's a very interesting guy, and you know what's funny? I tore a ligament in my thumb 11 games in. I'm on the DL. Pat Gillick and Paul Beeson come up to me in August, and they're like, "Are you going to be able to play like full on big leagues in the next week?" And I was still in my cast, and I was like, "No, there's no chance." I mean, I can't believe you're asking me, but no. I wish I could say yes, but no. Okay, we're trading for Ricky Henderson today. So they traded Steve
Wow.
Karsay.
Get out of here! You're the
That's how it happened. They
Ricky
traded Steve
Henderson.
Karsay and Ricky Henderson that night because there was no
Wow.
chance I was going to come back and play left field. So
So
that's
you're
how
basically you would have been better than Ricky Henderson had your thumb been healthy. You would have been the Henderson for the spot.
That would be him with the
left
stolen
field.
base. He's up. I am the greatest.
But you know what though? Not a cocky guy at all. Not
Really?
at all. Great guy in the locker room. Funny. You know what I mean? All the guys, like, I really think that when they got him, kind of like the way the Jays got David Cone in '92, like he released a lot of pressure from the other guys
Yeah.
because he was so, you know what I mean? He's Ricky Henderson. Like I really believe he helped Robbie Alomar. I mean, they're legit big leaders. He still took pressure off of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was that leadoff guy, that leader that would be kind of leading the team, and that presence helped them definitely.
Well,
Boys.
especially too. Oh,
Sorry,
sorry. I was
let me
gonna say
jump in
especially
here.
too.
I'll just let me quickly say. So we got about 3.5 minutes. Rob, we got to do this again. This is gonna be the Jays portion. We'll do part 2, which will be IBL portion. We got about 3 minutes. We always got to hear about the '93 World Series. You getting that hit off Schilling, as well as where were you enjoying that? But Elle, why don't you ask your question? About 3 minutes, please.
My whole thing was just like, having a personality like that, like you're saying, just drawing even just the media away from Alomar and Carter. Like they're still going to get asked the questions, but people love hearing Ricky speak. So like that, to your point, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I can see how he'd be a great pressure release for the locker room, being who he was.
Yeah, no, he definitely did that for all of us, 100%.
So '93, take us there. You're on the bench. Kurt Schilling's on the mound. Jays versus Phillies, World Series. What were you thinking when I think?
Well, I was thinking I wasn't going to be the guy that was going to be batting. First of all, I couldn't make my 12-year-old house league team, and now I'm pitching in the World Series. Are you joking? Yeah, no, that was funny because in game 3, we're in Philadelphia. And I wasn't even thinking because we play American League rules. I'm not thinking that there's no DH, that they're pinch hitting for the pitcher. So I'm on the bench, got my coat on. I'm talking with Darnell Coles, Dick Schofield. My bench buddies were hanging out talking. And in game 3, Gene Tennis comes down and says, "Butler, you're hitting." And I was like, "Butler's hitting? Are you joking me?" Anyways, bust out of my coat, get up on deck. Totally not prepared at all. I was not ready. I was not ready because it was my very first time playing a National League team. I wasn't even in minors. We'd never done it. It was always DH. There was none of this pinch hitting going on. So, anyways, I was not prepared. Luckily, Lenny Dykstra made a great catch to end one of those whatever inning it was. I was going to come in, so I didn't get the bat, but I was prepared. I was like, okay, these guys are actually going to put me in a game. So anyways, the next day, me and Darnell, instead of sitting on the bench and talking and shooting the shit with Dick Schofield, we're now warming up. We're like getting ready to maybe do something. So I got in game 4 when Todd Stoudemire scraped his chin on half of the way to third base there and came out of the game in the third inning. I actually got to pinch hit. That was my first pinch hit experience, which prepared me for Kurt Schilling, which was the real test. 2-0, 8th inning. Willie Quinones on first, pinch running. I'm the tying run. My whole experience of going through it a little bit with the fans booing, 70,000 people booing. You know what I mean? Like that whole. But it definitely made me kind of zone in. And Kurt Schilling was throwing a gem that day. I think he only threw like a 2-hitter. Like I think it was only 2 hits or 3 hits. It was crazy how good how well he's pitching. Meanwhile, the guy is a Hall of Famer. He's legit.
Yeah.
So. It was scary. I didn't think I'd be the guy called upon, since there was guys beside me who have hit home runs in the big leagues and played in playoff games before. But you know what? The Blue Jays, they gave me a chance and they believed in me, you know, and it was something that I'll honestly never forget in my life. I can literally feel slow motion, the whole thing happening. You know what I mean? And it was like a small little guy, epic battle with the big guy, because it was like an 8 or 9 pitch at bat. I'm fouling off pitches, fouling up. I'm swinging everything. Like I'm swinging over my head. You know what I mean? I am not striking.
A few moments later.
Technical difficulties, of course, from the Bushman. It wouldn't be a Bush banter without some madness. We're back.
The stories and the tales.
The stories are too good. We need some more. We need some more. So we had to refire, brought back Coach. He's gracious enough. Sherry, don't be too angry. We're prying away the husband for a couple hours here. But Butler, you were just mentioning, obviously, you know, going through that epic hit in the World Series. So maybe if you could just dial it back again and
Yeah,
just
if I can set the scene, I believe you had been fouling off at least 5 pitches, swinging at everything, not striking out.
That's it. That's where it left off.
Yeah, Sherry was going a little bit crazy in here, and I'm like, I'm reliving the World Series. What do you think? So yeah, who wouldn't be going crazy?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it was like that David and Goliath thing, you know, the little guy facing the big guy, and you know, I wasn't going down. I was not going down looking, right? I was I have watched that at bat a few times, and you know, we have a few laughs about it because I literally was swinging at anything that he was throwing. If he was smart, he would have thrown it into the dirt, and I would have struck out. But he kept on throwing it kind of close enough to the plate for me to at least get something on it. So it was no, it was probably the most memorable time I've ever, obviously the most memorable time I would ever have playing baseball. You know what I mean? Like I get 2 at-bats in the World Series. I got a chance to face Curt Schilling in such a crucial time of the game, and you know, near the end of the game, and to get that hit. And I still remember my brother. My brother was actually at one of the bars downtown, and it was jammed. Like all the bars downtown were jammed, right? Like it was only ways you could watch the Jays in the playoffs really that back then, and the Sky Dome was jammed as well. So he said everything went, like everything got turned off. The lights came on. They watched that whole inning, right? And then that at bat. And as I was battling, and he was like, "Is this at bat ever going to end?" But he's like, "No, this is a typical my brother at bat. Trust me, it's going to go like 12 pitches, and he's going to get a hit." And sure, I get a hit, and he says the whole place erupted, and I erupted. Bob Baylor erupted at first base. John Kruk was looking at me, going, "You are a rookie, aren't you?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I am the ultimate rookie, buddy." And, so it was just like a real slow motion moment, man. Of just amazing, like unbelievable. Nothing ever top it.
I can imagine just like the ball coming off the bat, and you just know it's a hit.
I instantly knew it was a hit, and it was. It is really an amazingly good feeling, man. I can tell you, like you can't really describe it, but you kind of float along the first base, and you know, you get your high five from the coach, and Bob Baylor's like, "Okay, now we got to score." I wasn't even thinking, "Okay, I got to score a run now." Like, I got to hit. I'm just like, I'm looking at the crowd. You're told to never look at the crowd, right? But when you get a hit, you always seem to look at the crowd, like, "Oh yeah, I just got a hit," you know. But you know, up until that, you don't bother with the crowd at all. But yeah, it was amazing. I got to tell you, I will never forget that. Honestly.
I'm sure you heard all about it from those relentless Phillies fans while you're at first base.
Oh yeah, and I actually went and played for the Phillies, you know, a couple years later, which was true. Half of those guys were still there, and they used to rib me all the time. But it was that was a fun team to play on. I got to tell you, playing with Lenny Dykstra, Darren Dalton, Curt Schilling, well, Mitch Williams was in the minor leagues, but we played with each other. Like being around those guys, man, it was a totally opposite team, man. It was like the Bushmen and the priests and the nuns over here on the other side. It was like two different worlds. It was like,
oh my god.
Let me guess. Lenny Dykstra wasn't on Team None.
I don't know. No, he wasn't. I don't know if you listen to Howard Stern at all, Rob, but he often has Lenny Dykstra come on to just chat about what he's doing these days, and holy moly, the guy is crazy still now. So I could only imagine what he was like back then.
Oh yeah, He was intense, man. He come walking in smoking. He's got a titanium rod in his back. Just living the dream every day. High energy, intense, do anything, crazy man.
That's
Just,
amazing.
you know, fun to be around at the park.
Yeah.
Leave it at the park.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Speaking
you've
of
definitely
your Phillies days, you also played with a very young Scott Rowland, who was 22
did.
at the time.
I did.
Any like at that time, like right away, were you just like, this kid's like an absolute stud?
Oh yeah, no, we played together in AAA first in Scranton Wilkes-Barre, and he was just lighting it up. Like he came up from AA and was like, you instantly knew this guy was a big leaguer. You know what I mean? Like TV doesn't do you justice when you see how big a man is, right? You can't really tell how big all these guys are unless you're right there beside them, seeing them. Like he was like John Oliver, giant, but super athletic, like football, fast, athletic. You know what I mean? Just strong and big.
because he
So
came up as he came up as a shortstop, if I'm not mistaken. Originally.
Shortstop originally when he was first starting, but then he moved over to third base. He moved over to third base probably by a high A ball, but he shot through the minor leagues really quick.
Yeah.
And he was already in the big leagues when I got called up. When I got called up to the Phillies, and you know he was struggling a little bit. That's the time when he was struggling. He was a rookie, and you know he was like, "I'm having a hell of a time." I said, "Buddy, every rookie has a hell of a time. Like it's a part of the whole thing, man. Like you don't want to come up here and get 10 hits in a row and then all of a sudden you can't get, you know what I mean? You want to struggle at first and then kind of like become a Hall of Famer, which is what he did. You know what I mean? Like what a great.
Also, just be thankful Pat Borders and Jack Morris aren't here. So you got at least that go over. You got Lenny Dykstra, but at least you got.
No kidding. I didn't do any of those pranks on anybody when they came up. I was always, I never had that established kind of like true veteran kind of guy. Although I did get my own seat on the bus.
There you go.
Yeah, some of those bus rides, man, in the minor leagues can be 12 hours. And if you got to sit beside a guy, like it ain't fun, man. At least I got my own seat. I got my bed and me. I was pretty happy.
Those bus trips through the minors must be legendary, though, because I feel like there's so many stories that come out of that, just because you're going through like small town America to these tiny little parks and just having a time with the boys on the bus.
Yeah, the time with the boys on the buses was, you know, like what you would think it would be, like what you see in the movies. It really was like that, right? A band of bandits just on their way to the next hotel, next little dump of a town, and just loving it, man. Finding a little diner, getting your grilled cheese sandwich with a coffee, and you know, maybe when we were younger, a beer back then. But definitely great times, and riding the buses was so much fun. Playing poker, telling jokes, telling stories. You know, the TV never worked, none of that crap ever. There was no technology. You were just one of the guys, man, with 20 guys just sweating it out. And you know, when I went to Venezuela, I played in Venezuela as well. And the bus ride there was not quite like it was in America, as rough as it was in America. There's no pisser on the bus. There's no bathroom. You're driving 7 hours from Barquisimeto in Venezuela down to the equator. I didn't even know what town I was going to. 150 degrees on this bus.
Yeah.
All the Venezuelans are in the back of the bus. You look back, and they're all naked. They can't. It's so hot. They're sweating. They're drowning in sweat. There wasn't enough seats for everybody. Guys are in the middle. We're driving 6 hours on this thing, breaking down, tires exploding. Like it was like unbelievable. The things that happened in Venezuela when I played there, those bus rides. And we get to the park. Bathrooms don't work. Toilets don't flush. Crap is piled up above the toilet seat. We would change on the field. We wouldn't even change in the clubhouse. Like it was like, but not even a thing that you would complain about, honestly.
Yeah.
Like we're like, oh, the crapper doesn't work. Oh well, who cares? I mean, there's flies and like weird mosquitoes just big flying around. me, Sean Green, Howard Battle were there together in '94. Showers never worked. There was always like a little pipe sticking out, and we would just be splashing ourselves with like, I don't even know. It was just muddy water, like just like
Yeah.
It was mud. It was mud.
This is how we lived, right? It's how we lived, and honestly, never complained about it, man. Freaking amazing. Like,
are you still connected with any of those guys to this day? Like, did you stay in touch with any of, you know, you mentioned Sean, you obviously came up with and stuff. Do you keep in touch with any of those guys?
Here and there you see guys. Like you see guys at alumni stuff. You see guys like there's a major league clubhouse where you can communicate with guys and see what they're doing. And
cool.
You know, I don't really venture too far away from Canada very much, and none of them live here, right? So they're all around the world somewhere. So you
Yeah.
can only kind of
Well,
connect
you're a newfie at heart, so that makes sense, right? What are you talking about outside of Canada?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
They don't,
I
if
think,
they don't
at
have,
the border right
yeah,
now.
if they don't have kitchen parties, you ain't going.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Exactly.
did you boys have any more MLB stories? Like we could go like for 5 hours here
We
with
could
this
we
guy,
could
but I
literally
figured we
talk
gotta talk some
MLB forever.
IBL at some point.
But I think a really good transition is, you know, a toilet that's all backed up, an insane place where you got to splash water on your face. Coming into Christie Pitts is probably just about the same.
I know, that's true. I walked in that bathroom and I thought it was paradise. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I said, what are you talking about? Buddy, I played in Venezuela. I played in some A-ball parks where the lights wouldn't work. Like old school stadiums that were built in the 1900s, man, where nothing worked. And these guys were complaining about the water at Christie Pitts. And I was like, you guys have no idea, man.
So with
Touch
that,
them
how
all.
did you end up? How did you end up with the Leafs? Like, I'm sure Jack had been hunting you since you were a 12-year-old kid, but like, how did you end up with the IBL with the Leafs? It looks like in 2001 was that your first year?
Yeah. So I actually played for Stratford back in the 80s. So back in the old days, I don't know if the rules still exist. I never really asked what the rules. If you were junior age, if you were under 21, you couldn't play for Toronto if you lived in Toronto. So I had to go play. I had to go play in Stratford. So I played in Stratford in '88, 1990. So I was 18 and 20, and yeah, I couldn't play for Jack. Jack went nuts about that, right? There's a lot of young guys around Toronto that were really good, and he couldn't get any. So we all had to go scatter around.
That's crazy.
So then I went and played my year of the pro ball. But I grew up with Mike Aslan. I grew up with Aslan, and you know, when I came back and I retired, I retired in '99. I took 2000 off because I was injured. I hurt my back, so I missed the 2000 summer. I didn't do anything. But 2001, we used to play poker together, and he's like, "Why don't you come play for the Leafs, man? It's fun, you know what I mean?" So I already played in county. I know it's fun. Like I've always loved the league. I used to watch Bill Bykowski and Ricky Johnson and all these old players play back in the early '80s. Like that was. I used to love watching the box scores of the Intercounty Leafs. What was going on with those guys?
Oh, because it's pure bedlam. It's been bedlam forever. You never know what's going to happen in an IBL game.
Oh, 100%. Definitely. You can be losing 15-0 and win the game. Like it's
No lead is safe. No lead is safe.
I have seen that myself.
I know. That's why the league is so much fun. I remember we were playing Kitchener and we were beating them, I think 11-3 or 12-3 in like the 6th inning, and we lost. And that was game 4 or game 5 in the playoffs. Like it was it was at 2001 actually.
Yes.
So as he said, come down, and I was out of shape. I hadn't hit a ball for about a year and a half. And I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be any good at this. So, but anyways, I ended up signing that year in 2001. Jack convinced me to do it. And my brother had just retired, so he decided to play as well. So we thought, let's go. The first time we get to play, in the outfield together. We came up in the minor leagues with the Jays, but we never played.
Wait, let me ask you this though: was this a classic? We're only going to take Rob if we sign Rich deal with Jack.
So
The tides had turned.
Aslan pulled strings, and I was the guy they wanted.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, until they saw Rich play, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, we're lucky we got Rich." Yeah, so that's how it all kind of started. I went down with Mike Aslan, and Jack said he'd pay for my gas, and I wouldn't have to spend any of my own money to play on the team. So I said, "What the hell, man? I'll do it."
That's
But
the
he really
funny thing
with
you
my
mentioned
camps,
is,
helped build my camp. Jack advertised my camp and my Stan Wadlow, and I used to have me and Rich used to have 70, 80 kids a week there. It was great.
Wow.
Man. He was so
Wow.
supportive of our camps and the development like we were doing for building our business as instructors and that. So that really helped me. But what I fell in love with the league first day, man. First game, it was great. I remember all the games I played. It was a lot harder than people thought. More competitive than people thought. I know we did well.
We tell every single person that we talk to about the league, it's no Mickey Mouse league. And, even coming from a real MLBer, it's tough, and you see it on the field, and it's incredible. Yeah. And
Yeah, no, it's way better now, but back then it was still good. But you had to come ready to play. You had to stay in shape. You know what I mean? I had to actually practice and take BP and do extra things. And You know what I mean? My brother threw BP to each other, you know, in between games. So we were like, we can't be embarrassed out there. We can't look stupid. You know, we played some real baseball in our life. We can't look like idiots out there. So we ended up staying in shape. And honestly, like Rich was I think the MVP that first year, 01. He hit like 16 home runs, batted 480, like something crazy, right?
That's a very IBL. That's a very IBL batting.
Yeah.
You get those big numbers sometimes.
So
He just went on a rake fest.
he did. He hit some bombs too, man. Oh my God. It was funny though when we like our pitching staff was so good. Chris Roth and Chad Earl, and then we got Spoley, and Spoley came. Me and Rich used to stand beside each other in the outfield and just talk and just hang out. No balls ever came to the outfield. Honestly, I would move over. Like my parents would always sit in down the right field fence there, and you know, because me and Rich was right field, and I was in center field, and we would literally be 10, 15 feet apart, and 10, 15 apart from our parents, just yapping away. Topley would talk. That would tell. I'm looking out in the outfield, like, oh, we don't have a center fielder. He's over talking to the right fielder. Like, our pitching staff was so legit.
Yeah.
It was fun. Like, it was fun. You know, I had to retire at the end because I got a little bit old, and I was 35 years old, and I wasn't anywhere near what I was when I started. I'm like, you know what, I got to hang this up. But I tell everybody, play in Erie County, man. Great league. Like, it's a stepping stone if you want to go back and play a little pro ball, independent ball. Like, it's good, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been a bunch of guys recently that have moved up to what's that league out with like Long
Frontier
Island?
League.
That's the Frontier League. Have come
Yeah.
from the IPL recently, but also for like 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. It's a wood-back league. You're playing 42 games a year against guys who have professional experience.
Yeah, you're
You
playing.
know,
like Peter Orr will tell you that. Peter Orr played for the Leafs before he went pro ball, and he said that's the reason why they helped him. He'd already had that sense of playing against guys who are men. You know what I mean? So it helped it. Like Peter ended up in the big leagues for 5 years. Like, it's legitimate league. So now we gotta get some more pros. We gotta get some more pros on the team, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if
speaking
you
of
want to come
grizzled
out of
vets,
retirement,
Speaking of grizzled vets, one of our favorites is who you just mentored, Spolzy, Paul Spolargic, who's epic. And I recommend anyone out there literally to type in Paul Spolargic baseball Brantford. You're probably not going to spell his last name correctly, but you will watch a grizzled pitcher basically chase a hitter after he pinned the home run all the way around the bases. And Elliot comes to tell me that was the second time he had done that season.
Lee Delfino.
What can Delfino? What can you
Delfino.
tell us about Spolargic, the guy, the legend? Was he that fiery behind the scenes? Was it just when he's on the mound? Tell us something about Spalzy.
Oh, Spolargic is like, he's Mr. Cool and Collected, man, until he pitches. We actually go all the way back to '88. We went to Australia together. We played in Australia in the junior national team. Spoley's actually from BC.
Okay.
So we grew up in BC. We went to Australia together. We went to the MBI together. It's called the National Baseball Institute out in Vancouver. We did that in '89 together. And Spoley was another one of those guys who knew was just going to be a pro, right? 6'5", left-handed pitcher, throwing 90 miles an hour, as goofy as they come. You know what I mean? Your hat's a little off to the side when you're left-handed. And goofy and quirky. We were roommates then. We were roommates in pro ball as well. We were in St. Catharines together, AAA together. Good buddies, man, like good buddies. And I mean, Spoley, I love the guy. Him chasing Lee Delfino around the field is not a surprise. I'm surprised that hasn't happened more.
That's
he can get pretty fired up when he's pitching, let me tell you. And I don't know if it's Red Bull or something that's sneaking into his water, but he's a fiery dude, man. But he's got like legitimately, I think, every pitching record going in the IBL. You know, like how I don't know if you guys ever got to watch him actually pitch in a game. Like, were you guys like 5 years old then? Like, I don't know how old you guys are.
You missed out on the
2000
train.
Yeah, I'd be 2001. I'd be 13 years old.
15.
Yeah. So like Spoley would I think he had like 2 strikeouts an inning. Like, it was just crazy numbers. So yeah, totally legit. Great dude, funny guy, do anything. If you wanted to go out and hang out till 3 in the morning, Spol would be with you.
Okay, now going to that.
Cards. And you know,
What were
grandma,
you? What were
What's
you
that?
and Foley doing at 3 in the morning? That's a story I want to hear.
two left-handers out in the streets is a very dangerous thing. But he, you know what though? He was a cool and collected guy too. We could hang out and just chat and talk. He loved to fit, you know what I mean? Good dude, man. Like honestly, I love Foley. And so when we were in 2001, I told Jack, because I always talked to Foley back then. We were close. He moved to Toronto, he married a girl in Toronto. So I was like, why don't you get Spal Jarek to play? Like, how do we not have Spal Jarek on this team? He said, I'll have his number. So I was I was like, I'll get you his number, no problem. Anyways, I called Spal and I said, what do you think we'll come and play for the Leafs? And he's like, what's the Leafs? He didn't know what it was. He's like, the hockey team? Anyways, but no, man, the baseball team is actually legit ball. You'll probably get a few bucks because they're really good. And just check it out, like see what happens. So anyways, Jack called them and I don't know what deal they made, but they made some deal to get him on the team, and all's history, man. Paul came, and it was a lot of fun having him around. It definitely boosted the guys. You know, we always felt like, I don't know if he even lost a game in the first 2 years he was pitching, but you could never beat him. You know what I mean? That was when me and Rich were really standing beside each other. I don't even think we were in the outfield when he was pitching. We were just talking and leaning up on the fence. Like he was good dude, man. I love Spoley.
Those early 2000 IBL Leaf teams were like insane. I don't think you guys lost a home game one season. Like I think your records, it was less than like 5 losses a year for a good stretch. And obviously you won the championship in 2002. So tell me a little about that. How was that celebration? Where did you guys take the Dominico Cup in 2002? Where didn't you take the Dominico Cup in 2002 is probably the better question.
Well, we lost in 01 to Kitchener, and it was a huge letdown. Like we were like 29-2 or something like that. We had the highest winning percentage ever in the league. And we were totally convinced that we were good. And that's probably why we lost, because we thought we were going to win. You know what I mean? Like we just thought it was going to be a cakewalk. We had Chris Roth, John Duras, Ertl. Our pitching staff was so legit. You know what I mean? It was how could we lose?
Yeah.
Anyways, we ended up losing. Kitchener had the Curran brothers and the Pietrascos and those boys. They were so good, man. Great. What a team they had. Like it was unbelievable. It was just like it was back and forth. Like all those games were huge. So I mean 12, 11, 13, 12 games. It was like a battle royale. Suddenly all the pitching just disappeared and we were just like launching everywhere. Anyways, we ended up losing. So the next year we were convinced that we were not going to lose. So I don't know, the next year was easier. It felt easier. I don't know what it was. Like it was just more of a calmer kind of like there was no pressure. You know, the 01 we felt a lot of pressure because we were always on city TV. Gallagher had me and Rich on all the time. We're always on the team. We're in the paper it seemed like every day. It seemed like we're in the paper more than the Blue Jays back then. So there was that little bit of pressure on the guys, and I don't think they knew how to handle that. You know what I mean? It was different. It was different for them. So, and Rich couldn't carry us to the promised land by himself. You know, we did need the whole team. But the next year was different. Like we really gelled, and everything really just fit into place. Like we were not going to lose. Like it was a cakewalk that year. It wasn't hard for us at all. Like we were tight, and we were more accustomed to each other. Me and Rich being on the team for a year, the guys were more comfortable with us. You know, because it's not always easy to play. Like for me, it wasn't easy for me to play with Jack Morris and Paul Mulder. So we figured it would be easy for Topley and these guys to play with me and Rich, who played in the big. And you kind of go in, they kind of think that there's something different about you, but there is nothing different about us.
Yeah.
Same guy.
You know what I mean? There's nothing different. We're guys, man. We've been there. We know. You know what I mean? But there's still that kind of edge of ooh. But it wasn't like that. You know what I mean?
Rich just put up a 16 home run, 480 average season. So I mean, there might be something. That's pretty good.
Yeah. He was definitely on a definitely higher pedestal, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, 02 was a cakewalk, and it was fun. Like that was probably the funnest year we had together as a group, because then the guys kind of started breaking off a little bit. New guys started coming in after that, and John Duras passed away, which wasn't great. And that was the year we actually won was after he passed away. So that also kind of took the edge off as well. Like we wanted to do it for him and it's for his family, because we were all tight with Johnny. You know, our friendship went back all the way to 87, 88. He played in Scarborough and I played in East York, and we played pro ball against each other. So we were all it just made it like more of a mission for us as a team. You know what I mean? And so,
Sure.
I mean, it was, I think we beat Hamilton in the finals. I think Hamilton made it to the championship that year. Am I right?
Yeah, I think you guys took
It wasn't
Hamilton.
Brantford yet. Brantford hadn't turned into the stud machine that it was
No.
yet. That was
Yeah, they
Brantford
ripped off
was-
a few after that.
It was like
Yeah,
05
yeah,
or
yeah,
06.
six in a
Came
row.
after.
Yeah.
Barry got good and Brantford got good right after I
Yeah.
left.
Yeah,
But
but
no,
the
it was-
Leafs are going to be good. And
Yeah,
let's
right.
transition into current Leafs. So I'd love to know, we're going to talk about 2024. Obviously, big things on the horizon, folks. Jack, love the guy to death. He brought the Leafs to Toronto. Unfortunately, did pass away. But there is a new ownership group involved. And by the sounds of it, they're very engaged and want to build a winner and want to improve the facilities and everything of that. Like, maybe before talking about 2024 and kind of what you see for the future, how did you end up getting back involved with the Maple Leafs as a coach? Because I know that you obviously were the junior national team coach for Canada, started in 2009, and obviously, as you mentioned, you and Rich, Rob Butler baseball, giving him a free plug. Kids, get out there. We got a legend. He'll teach you how to do it. We'll let you plug that at the end. But how did you get back involved with the Leafs?
Well, you know what? I was just doing my thing, doing my instructional thing that I've been doing since 2000, since I retired. You know, I got a couple guys. I got one of the guys on the Savannah Bananas. Ryan Kellogg was one of my old players. He plays for the Savannah.
There you go.
Tyler Black is about to get to the big leagues this year. So that's kind of what I was doing, just developing Canadian kids to either go to college, go to university in Ontario, or just be good at baseball, right? Minding my own business. And out of nowhere, I get an Instagram from Jeff from Lounsbury.
Oh, the Fonsbury.
So kind of tried to keep myself kind of like, I don't have Facebook or anything like that, but I did have my Instagram account for my business, which my wife pretty much runs. I'm kind of like hidden away. I'm not easy to find. So I'm like, how the hell did this guy find me? And who is he? Like, you know what I mean?
How did he find me at Rob Butler baseball?
You know what? Right there. That's the newfie in me thinking that I'm hidden away. And I make my company on Instagram, Rob Butler Pro Baseball. Yeah. Genius move, Butler.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So Jeff, you know, I didn't even know the job was even open, right? And I never coached a men's team. I've always coached kids. But you know what? I was definitely intrigued by it. It was only like 3 or 4 weeks before the season even started. So I guess Topley had stepped down at that time, and they were scrambling for a coach. So they, you know, went through the garbage can and pulled out some names, and out comes Rob Butler's name. And said, "Why don't we try to get this guy? Where is he? First of all, where is he? You know, I didn't know I was even in Oshawa." So yeah, so it was kind of a no-brainer. Like, it was real easy. He just, you know, with him and coaching the Leafs, obviously I'd like to do it. You know, I was always wondering why Jack never actually asked me to do it. He kind of, you know, Jack would keep in contact and call me and, you know, what are you doing now, Butler? You know, you coming back to play? And I'm like, I'm not coming back to play, man. Like, I can barely throw from halfway the pitching mound to home plate. So, but he never asked me to coach for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. It's all good. Me and Jack had a great relationship for forever. But you know, I jumped at it right away. There was no hesitation. I was like 100%. I couldn't commit to the whole season because I'd already been coaching in my own business. So, you know, they let me do half of the season last year, which worked out perfect. And it was, honestly, I had a great time, man. The guys were amazing. Dustin Richardson being around, being an ex-pro as well, big leaguer, like this. It made it fun, and I love the Dominicans in the team now. Like, I remember that was happening when I used to play. I love those guys. I love that spirit that they bring. You know, the energy that they bring, the different language and the way they chirp and the way they, you know, the way they go about their practice, and it's so much entertainment, right? So yeah. It was easy to say yeah to come back and coach.
So what can everyone look forward to for 2024? Like I said, there's new ownership.
Hey, yeah, let's just say big news released on the Leafs social pages today. We got Rob Butler back for another season as coach of the Maple Leafs.
Hope that's a good thing.
Yeah.
No, the new ownership guys, they're amazing. Like, they are so intrigued by this league and this team. You know, they jumped at putting their team together to want to buy the team, and were so interested in the park and the way the league runs and all the things that they can do to make it more fun, more engaging for kids, more engaging for the Bushmen.
Woo!
Get
You don't
guys
need
beer
you don't need
for
to
the
make
game.
it more engaging for us. We're 100% engaged. 0 worries about engagement on our end.
You might have a bigger membership.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone ever. You want to come out? You like?
We're gonna have to dig out some more of that tree so there's more room for all of you guys under that little loop
Yeah.
you got up there in the trees.
Yeah. No, but like to your point, like I'm so happy with what we've seen from the ownership group. They seem engaged. You know, obviously, getting a more commitment, a full year commitment from you, and you know, bringing a new energy to it. I mean, it's such a great league, and just to have people that want to bring more eyes to the Toronto part of this league, I think is you know, it's forget about it. That's amazing. That's exactly what we've always believed, and to see it be put into action is incredible. I'm so happy.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's gonna be amazing. Like Toronto, the Toronto Maple Leafs baseball team have to be like the Yankees of the MLB. You know,
They
the
will
team
be.
everybody wants to be
He
on.
will be.
Yeah, there's
You know
no
what I mean? Like,
reason
the
why
uniform
every team.
mesmerizes you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can reach out to your old contacts in Caracas, Venezuela. Bring us some young Dominicans. We're here for it.
Where's
100%.
Juan Guzman's kid at?
Oh my God, Father Guzman. He used to walk around with the Bible in his hand and just
Really?
be like,
He's a big religious guy.
I'm honestly a good guy. But the funny thing about Goozy, like he wasn't his real age, right? Like I think he said he was 26, but he was 36. Like it was. I still remember me and Dick Schofield. We were locker. He was beside me, and we used to always watch him walk by and have his undershorts on and a little T-shirt, and we're like, that guy is not 26 years old. There's no way. He has got an old man belly,
Yeah.
and still pumping 96, so nobody cared. But yeah, no.
He keeps telling us about his grandkids. Like, I don't know.
He has grandkids?
No, he's just making a joke about all of you.
Oh, back then, yes.
Yeah, back then.
Yeah, sorry. Butlerville, cluing in.
Yeah.
But I will say
Well,
this, though.
this guy's got like 10 kids who are like 14 years old. He ain't 26 years old.
Unreal. Well, we're yet again, like we could do this for probably 5-part segment, kind of running up on time here. And coach, like, please, like we would love to have you back on the pod. This was great. Like there's so many more stories we've all written down that we want to jam on you with. Maybe real quick before we wrap up, just tell the people a little bit about your academy. Now, I know you're pretty proud of it. You do have a baseball program, and maybe you could just tell the people how they could, you know, engage, and if they have any, you know, kids or you know, young athletes looking to you know, learn from you.
Yeah, well, if there's any young Bushmen out there who want to learn how to play baseball properly.
Levi, the southpaw.
2.5, Rob. Don't worry. Give me one more year.
Oh, 100%. Everybody's welcome, man. Anybody wants to learn how to play baseball properly, that's my job. That's what I've just grown to love to do, man. I've been doing it for 20 years now, 23 years, doing summer camps, 23 years. Developed hundreds of kids just playing the game the right way. You know what I mean? Hustle on, hustle off. No baloney, no bull crap accepted. You know, we just teach the kids to do it right. No pressure. There's no yelling and screaming. You know what I mean? They have fun. We integrate all these games that me and my brother created when we were kids, home run derbies and all one base and Burby and all this stuff goes on. Awesome. But they really learn how to play baseball properly. You know, that's our whole model. Play the game right and learn and practice it right. And you know, we didn't think we'd last 6 months, and we're 23 years into it now.
There you go.
Wow.
And it's not hard to find. As Lonsbury found up, just type in Rob Butler baseball and you will find it or on Google.
I'm gonna have to find a way to go more incognito, man. Like that.
Get that name one more comment here, just like last little bit. We'll tie it off.
What's that?
From any of us or Rob?
Hell, did you have one? I thought you were going to say something.
I did. I was going to say it sounds like you're teaching sports the right way. Kids don't learn unless they're having fun, and you can engage them with proper technique by having fun games that make sense and translate to actual on-field play. It sounds like you're doing it. Exactly. I'm sending Ray's kid there.
Yeah.
First chance I get.
My dad, when he was talking to me and Rich, you know, we had some ground rules we had to follow. Don't get kicked out of the game. No arguing with the umpire. I actually got into an argument with the umpire. I'm playing intercounty. I'm a 33-year-old man. I get a bad call called against me. I get kicked out of the game.
Wait, a bad call in the intercounty baseball league?
Yeah, I got kicked out of the game. I'm jarring at the umpire, and I look over the umpire's shoulder, and there's my dad. Get off the damn field, Butler.
Yeah.
Yes,
You broke rule
what?
number
You're
one.
walking home.
Yeah.
You broke
Come
rule
on
number
by.
one. No getting kicked out. I'm like, Dad, I'm 33, man. Like, I'm a man now. I'm not 12.
Yeah.
Hustle on. You run as hard as you can at all times. This is the things that my dad was one of my hustle coaches, and you know what? We live that every day, man.
I love it. I love
Right
it.
on.
Don't take a shift off. Don't
No.
cheat yourself. Run out every base. These are kind of the mottos of the Bushmen, but we like to bring it when we're up on the hill. We are very much looking forward to 2024, folks. Rob, like I said, from the bottom of our hearts,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank
We
you
love
so
the
much,
stories.
Rob. That was
Really want to do this going forward. And guys, the season countdown, it's coming up
Oh.
in May. We'll be
Can I
just say,
Uh,
you guys, can I honestly say, you guys have made the park so much more fun. Like when I'm on the field, I'm coaching third, especially, and you're chirping the other team. Like honestly, I am like literally dying inside laughing. Sometimes.
This is why we got to do part 3, Rob.
I don't
We're
want to
gonna
put
do
any pressure on you guys, but you're gonna, you know what I mean. You got to come up with new material. You know, keep it going.
it's always
new
happening.
gravy, man, on the fries and make it more interesting. You know what I mean? No pressure, but you got to keep the
Yeah.
laughs coming,
We've
man.
been working all off season. We are dialed in. We are dialed in and we're ready. People, I know we're going to do more segments with Coach because this needs to be a regular thing. Again, from the bottom of our heart, thank you, Rob. We really appreciated it. Al, Ray, I'll see y'all hillside. And always to everyone, go Leafs, go.
Go Leafs, go.
Thanks a
Let's.
lot, guys. That was fun, man. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Rob.
will be back. Don't you worry. Anytime.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm here for it. I'm here for every second.